Stephanie and Josh, it's awesome having you here today. Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Oh,
Thank you for inviting us.
So you have a number of different companies. Now, everybody in St. George knows Steamroller.
Pretty much.
I mean,
unless you're new,
we've used
right?
Steamroller a bunch.
Yeah.
And so everybody, that's kind of the standard for printing in St. George. Everybody knows about that company. But you have more than just that, though.
We do. Yeah, we've grown. It's been kind of fun as we have needed things in our own business. We've looked at, how can we actually make that a service that we can offer to everybody else. And so we started Copiers for Sale, which is a division of Steamroller Copies, which sells copier equipment. So, we needed copiers at Steamroller. Therefore, we became a dealership, and we were able to extend that service to the community.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's something that, as the world, I think we all expected 20 years ago that printers would just kind of go away.
I know, yeah.
And then today, though, you're able to actually start a business where you're supplying those to
and
people.
it's growing, surprisingly, but yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And then we've also recently developed an IT service division called Orange Tech, which is also part of Steamroller Copies. But many of our copier customers need IT support as well. And so it's just naturally grown. It's been really fun.
This is network. This is work, individual workstation type thing?
Cybersecurity, networking. I don't know.
We've actually developed a pretty integrated network where we're able to install nodes on each computer that we manage and remotely manage it from our central hub. So we rarely ever have to even go out and talk or be on site with customers, and we can tech remotely. So it's a pretty elevated service. It's a great thing.
And interestingly, so these other two things you've talked about so far both kind of dovetail into what you were already doing.
Uh-huh.
It's just you're already doing printing and that type of support, and so these kind of were a natural outgrowth of that.
Like Orange Tech, for example, we had multi-facilities. So we had Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Utah, and we were trying to figure out how to network each one, how to manage our IT services, how to manage our malware, our virus protection, and it was just a mess. And so we went and invested an immense amount of money in software, and we thought, geez, this is something, if we've spent this kind of money, nobody else wants to. We didn't want to. We should probably go ahead and share this and charge at a much lesser rate since we've already taken the dive. And it's ended up being this great service that a lot of companies have taken advantage of and automated their IT departments so they don't have to bring people in-house. It's saving them a ton of money, but giving them the full, myriad of services that they would have by bringing a full-time guy in-house.
So I want to ask you about that. We're in a small community, and we're trying to talk about what are the things that help a company become successful in a smaller city like this. And so not only do you have a successful business that's actually become a household name in St. George, which is Steamroller.
Thanks.
But you're actually building companies on top of that inside a small market. Mm-hmm. So you have this business that kind of created its own little spot in the market, and then you're building on top of it. So from a messaging standpoint, when you're adding additional businesses or additional services, how do you message that, or how do you get that word out to potential customers?
So I'll jump in. If that's all right.
No, I mean there's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's actually tricky because we have a very integrated marketing program that really Stephanie developed. Stephanie's the mastermind of really our marketing internal at our corporations, but we have, integrated email lists. We have social media feeds. We have video. We have all these different.
And we also we brand it like a division of Steamroller Copies. So we're tying in that main name. And so customers are like, oh, okay, this is part of Steamroller. And they've been around for 25 years. And I can trust them or use them.
And it's really important to us as well as we talk about this, because if we put a division of Steamroller Copies or a division of Design to Print, our two core companies, it means we really are behind it. We believe in it, and we want it to be successful in the community. And we're really putting our name, everywhere there is to put. So it's an important message for us when we do put that name on it, a division of. It matters to us personally. And being in a small market, this is a little city. There's not a lot of resources here. Mm-hmm. When I moved here, there were 17,000 people. I moved from Orange County, California. Yeah, so I basically.
When was this? Give me some
88.
perspective.
88.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's what, 5-6 times that now, right? Is it
Oh,
more?
way more. Yeah, I think we're bordering 200,000.
Is that right? Okay. That's
and
amazing.
so if you think about like the growth that's gone on, right? So when we first moved here, Steamroller was born literally out of the inability to have printing done. My mother was actually in charge of a bunch of marketing for the Southwest Guild, for Jubilee of Trees, the hospital. She volunteered on all sorts of boards, and she's doing thousands of dollars a month worth of printing. And they had a little Kinko's here. And she actually would go to Kinko's, and she would go there 4 days a week. And not once did anyone ever know her name. Not once did anyone ever take special care of her. Not once did, and these things kind of piled up on her. And she looked at me one day and she said, as a family, we want all the kids to have a job. I really would like to create a place that we can all have a job, as a family and do this together. And what a wonderful way to do it in something that I need every day and is being underserved in the community, because the customer service certainly isn't there. And that was what the impetus for Steamroller originally was, is providing a world-class print service with
Customer service
and I have to backtrack and say she was an airline flight attendant, so she wanted first class service. And it was a big
Nice.
deal
Okay.
for her. And we've always based the companies off that first class service, but that's how Steamroller was born. A family business with first class service.
This is so interesting to me, because what you literally did was went up against Goliath. I mean, because
Kinko's, yeah.
I'm old enough. I remember when Kinko's was before FedEx purchased them,
Yeah.
and they were everywhere, and they were
Yeah.
huge. And if you wanted printing done, that's where you go. And then it was interesting to me. I remember, it seems like, it was probably right around when we first moved our business down here, which was pushing 3 years ago.
Okay.
We needed to get something printed, and I had somebody working here, and I said, hey, we need to, is there I don't remember what I called it at the time, a FedEx office or whatever, and they said, well, just take it to Steamroller. And I go, what's Steamroller? And it was, the thought of going to these other big things didn't even cross her mind. And they exist here. I mean, they're still here. There's a FedEx office. I know
Yeah.
where it is. There's a Staples. They exist here, and yet you were able to, in a small market, take advantage of the needs in a small market, which is partly what you just said, this customer service, where people know each other and they expect that, and it feels more like I'm working with somebody that cares about me, that knows who I am, et cetera. And then you were able to capitalize on that, and then really, really carve out a niche. And now because you have multiple locations, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
We have 3.
yeah, see,
Yeah.
that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
That you did that, and really that's the key. Then it sounds like is the customer service.
It's all about customer service. We're in a small market, and I think a big boy company looked at us as just a little bedroom community that nobody needed to pay attention to. But us living here, we love Southern Utah. We care about it. We've got the Dixie spirit, and we wanted what I grew up with in Los Angeles, what you grew up with in Salt Lake. We wanted to bring it here because it mattered. It mattered to the people who lived here. It mattered to us. And I hope that's what the community sees. I hope that's what people feel about us, and that's the service they get. And it sounds like it's rubbing off a little bit on the community, of course, by the recommendations you're getting, but makes us feel good because we work really hard and tirelessly to give that service.
So it's been, did you say 25 years that it started?
I think over 25.
Yeah. I was just a young pup when we got going.
Nice.
It's whenever I hear that term, I'm like, wow, I've grown up
I
with
was
this
only
business.
4 years old.
I know. I was 3.5.
Nice.
Yeah. So 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really, it's a really remarkable story when and you've literally, once again, taken advantage of the fact that you're in a small market, a place that you already love, that you already love being, and you live where you love, and then you found or created a business here in the place that you love, and then it turns out
It's a little
Like
harder done than said, but yes.
well, this is so I want to get back to the question I asked a minute ago about how you communicate this, because I think I heard you say radio. Okay, because when I have these conversations, I'm always comparing it to where I came from, which is Denver. Denver's not the biggest city in the world, but it's a heck of a lot bigger than this place is. And I think if you took Denver Metro, you'd have a couple of million people. And so when you go there, setting up a business, the market is much, much bigger to begin with. And not only the market itself, but your avenues for reaching potential customers. I mean, because you have multiple TV stations there, and more radio stations than you possibly need
Right.
to reach people. But here it's not like that. You don't really have a TV station for this area. And you have a handful of radio stations. So there's all these other avenues that people have to be a little more creative. So I want to ask that. You talked about radio. Maybe you could talk about that for a second, and your other, what types of things do you do in an area like this to maintain that market share from a communication standpoint?
So we have this jingle for steamrollers that you can't get out of your head. And in fact, I've had people curse at me because
Nice.
they can't get it out of their head. So it's doing its job.
And we love it. We think it's
Yeah.
like perfect. It's doing exactly what it's supposed
It's
to.
catchy, and we'll have to send it to you. You can listen to it.
Is it on the radio?
It is on the
Because I
radio.
don't, because I don't
All
listen
day,
to the radio station.
every
so I
day.
think,
Right,
okay.
it is on the
For the
radio.
last 25 years.
I don't know if
Okay.
it's been that long, but
Well,
almost.
23. Yeah, we
no,
came up
it's
with the
been-
jingle, 2 years in, I want to say. I think is when,
Probably.
yeah.
So it is catchy. It's great having the relationship with the radio stations because they're out in the public. They're out talking to people. Hey, where did you get your car wrapped? Hey, where did you get, your banners or whatever? And then, steamrollers. So we've got that great relationship with them who are out in the community. We also are involved with the Chamber of Commerce. We're involved with local networking groups because it's still, even 25 plus years ago, small community, you kind of knew everyone and everyone knew you. And I'm going to go support Josh. I'm going to go support their family business over Kinko's, right? And so building those relationships over the years and then developing them as the city has grown, knowing. I love that we know the mayor, we know the city council people. They've always been a great support of our companies. And so it's a matter of just getting out there and getting involved, volunteering. You get to meet a lot of people. So getting on boards, getting into groups that help you, broaden your circle, I think it has been really helpful as well.
So I have to ask this then. You made a comment a minute ago about how you love being here. You love the area, and that helps. But Josh, you said a minute ago you're from California somewhere. So I have to ask then, why are you here?
Oh, man. That's like a whole half hour in itself. I love, it's interesting. So I moved here in high school and came here as a sophomore. And it was a hard thing because I'd already gone my first year of high school in California, which your freshman year is your first year. So this is my first year of high school as high school starts here. And I just had the worst feelings and whatever towards moving here. And within a month, I just started falling in love with Southern Utah. And I have never looked back. I mean, I spend a lot of time traveling. I'll be in Los Angeles multiple times per year. I'll be in Vegas every week. I'll be East Coast, every 2 or 3 months. And there's something about driving through the gorge and coming home when the gorge opens up and you open up into the Red Rocks, or you're flying in on SkyWest, or whatever it is. But when you enter the Southern Utah Dixie area, it's just unbelievable. It's almost like there's a spirit to it, and
Great
you just
energy.
know you're home. It's just such
Big
a great
cities are
energy.
great to visit. I don't know.
And I think
don't
we
like
have a
living
unique
there.
perspective because
Yeah.
we do business in big cities with big companies all day long, but we choose to live here, and it matters. And so we get and we appreciate what we have here. And I think a lot of people, there's people who appreciate it, there's people who don't. We really appreciate this area. We appreciate what we have here, and we want to help it grow.
That makes sense. And when you say help make it grow, and you actually said something about this a minute ago, getting involved in the community makes a big difference. Do you have some examples of the kinds of things that are available for people to get involved in? Like, so if you were to come here and start a business or bring your business here,
Yeah.
I mean, this is what I did.
Right.
I moved down here 2.5 years ago and brought this, my business and this studio just 'cause, and for me, I wanted to get away from a big city and then come down here and put your stake in the ground. And then, there's been some things we've gotten involved with, like the Street Fest and
Yeah.
things like that. But what are some examples of that?
Things
the
like that.
opportunities?
Obviously, the Chamber of Commerce is a great resource. We have one in Hurricane. Washington City has one, and there's the St. George area. Nice I think fact about it is St. George Area Chamber is one of the most active chambers. There's a lot of members, but they're active members, which is really nice. And they have, luncheons every week, so it's not just a once a month thing. You're out there. There's ribbon cuttings. I've been a part of the Sunshiners, which are the ambassadors for businesses moving in. We help with the ribbon cuttings and the grand openings and the groundbreakings and things like that. Josh was a president, or what were you, president? Chairman, whatever. Chairman of the chamber a few years ago.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
yeah, so we've been involved that way. I've served on like Habitat for Humanity.
Hospital board.
I've done Art Around the Corner, which
Washington
is
County.
local arts. You've done,
Well, actually, that was a big one.
which one?
The arts.
Art Around the
The
Corner.
art around the
Yeah.
corner. That was a huge deal. You
So,
were the chairman.
there's always opportunities, I think, for people to serve. It's maybe finding something you're passionate about or that you want to give yourself and your time of to get involved. It makes it a lot easier but there's a lot of needs. There's a lot of organizations that need volunteers, and it's a great way to get to know people.
One thing about our community that I love, though, is genuinely people get involved. And I love that about Southern Utah is, people don't just stay home. Like if you go and you serve at a marathon or, jump in and, even a soup kitchen or something, you're probably going to see elected officials. You're going to see people who normally in a bigger city probably wouldn't be taking part in smaller organizations. So you're really going to get to know people, at every level. And there's no socioeconomic classing, everybody just shows up and helps. And I love that about this community.
It's interesting. We had somebody in here about a week ago talking about the Huntsman Senior Games that come here.
Yeah.
And
I was
that
on
was
that board.
What's that?
I was on that board.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, he made that same comment about how the community itself rallies behind these events. And
Ironman
people.
and the marathon that we have every year is just, it's exciting. It's so fun to introduce the rest of the world to St. George, to Southern Utah, because they're blown away. They're like, oh, it's so pretty, it's so unique. It's, they love coming here.
So you were able to take this community, start a business, and then not only add businesses and services to it, but where? I mean, you talk about going to California, Las Vegas. I mean, do you have business interests there?
So that's our other business, right?
Yeah. So it's tough because Steamroller is entirely based. It is walk in off the street is direct B2C, right? And it's such a great business for that. And that's how, we really started it more as a community service than we even did a business. And it's just turned into this great thing. Now, at the same time, I started this with my mother when I was 19 years old. And about 2 years in, I thought, like most family businesses go, if I stay under her umbrella forever, it'll always be mom and son.
Sure.
And I really wanted to do my own thing a bit. And so we started a division called Design to Print. And what we were doing originally was separating pre-press films, that, like dates me so far. Like we were actually doing
old school print.
Oh yeah, like film negatives, right? And sending them off to the presses in town and that kind of thing. And then that got bigger and we were pretty good at it. We knew how to do color separations well. So before you knew it, we were doing magazines down in Las Vegas. We were doing magazine work up in Salt Lake. Then that, at some point, that film was coming to an end, okay? And again, it's been 100 years since that even existed, but we decided what was next, and everybody who was doing what we were at the time decided to start buying offset printing presses, big offset printing presses. And they actually moved and they ended up competing, kind of biting the hand that fed them, if you will, because they ended up competing with the people that they were selling their film to. And that was kind of the model in our industry, and we thought, we don't want to do that. We've supported this group of printers forever. Is there another product that we could implement to actually support them further? And it got us into what we call grand format printing. And so we started doing inkjet printing at 72 inches wide at first. Then we went to 10 foot. Then we went, or
so
8 foot.
you were plotters.
Yes.
I mean, you're getting full-size plotters to do banners and...
Correct.
That
And so
kind of
we
thing.
were
Okay.
actually the 8th digital large format printer, inkjet printer in the country. In fact, I know because we had serial number 8 on the very first solvent-based inkjet press. And what really got us in wasn't even the foray into it. That got us going in McCarran Airport for all the advertising in Las Vegas. And we started doing all the taxi tops for San Francisco, Las Vegas, LA. But then what really got us going was 2002 Olympics. We had a huge contract with Mountain Dew. and we had to do a bunch of building wraps up in Salt Lake for the Winter Olympics. And so we bought a 16-foot
Wow.
press and really opened us up into billboards. And that business has, for whatever reason, we've been at the right place at the right time. And everybody always tells me it's not by chance. You know, we kind of, you know, knew what was going on, but I always call it by chance. You know, we just got lucky and it worked out. And so we're always at the right place. We're at the right place when it went from big roll-to-roll presses and billboards to what we call flat sheet printing, where we printed right on foam cores and plastics and political signage. We always have done all the political signage for Southern Utah. We've treated the politicians great because it's so hard to run for public office. I mean, these guys just put their name on the lines, a front page of paper. We always feel like the only way we can give back is to give them the printing it cost, basically, because we just feel for what they're doing out there and how much they're trying to care about their communities. So it's the one way we can help. And so we did that. We've done that for years and years and years. But as that grew, we got into, I think the real changeover for that business was the Ocean's 11's release with Brad Pitt, George Clooney in Las Vegas at the Palms Casino. And we did this 100-foot, we call it a step and repeat backdrop, right? That you see people on the red carpets.
Like red carpet backdrops.
And we did this huge event and we realized, you know, there's good money in this, right? Now, we didn't know what we were pulling back the covers on, but at that point, it was a whole lot better than selling a banner, if you know what I'm saying. So we started going down this road, and today we have a full metal fabrication plant.
Oh, wow.
One of our companies is called the Metal House, that we're doing full metal fabrication complete. And then we also have SEG Warehouse that we're doing light boxes, interior fixturing for retailers all over the country. So we work with people like Columbia Sportswear, Under Armour, Adidas, Microsoft. Yeah, we're doing enough for enough huge retailers that it's hard to remember all the people we do things for today.
And all of this became as an opportunity that resulted from your original little small company, small town.
Yeah.
And it all enabled you to step into all these basically national opportunities.
Now, it would have been really easy to pick up and move to a big city to get this business. So we've had to work. I mean, that's kind of one of the things is we don't have these, you know, big studios just down the street for us to go get business from. So we've got to work 10 times as hard to get the sale, to build those relationships. And so that, you know, has been a challenge. But we didn't want to leave. We didn't want to leave.
We didn't.
We wanted to keep our kids here. We wanted to, you know, live here. And
it's the right place for us. And, you know, we'll do a campaign like, for example, we did a huge thing for the Minions for NBC Universal. And we had to fly their whole art department up to do press checks and really getting the end of this campaign that actually ended up going to Manhattan. And there was Minions on top of every other cab top in Manhattan, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was a huge deal. We had the whole art team up. And this is what people don't know about our companies. We do a lot of business in Los Angeles, but the main business people know us for is we have a lot of the airports under contract. So we do a lot of the graphics at Burbank and Ontario and John Wayne Airport and different things down there. But what we really do in LA is with the studios. We do the work with the studios, and we work with NBC, Disney, and this NBC that was a huge deal with the Minions. And it was such a pleasure working with them. And you bring them up here. And this is what's so neat about living in Southern Utah. You get somebody who's in a Burbank facility, and NBC, I mean, look, they've got Universal Studios literally in their back lot. And because I've been to their studios many a time, they come up here and they see Zion. They see the Red Rocks that we have. And I've never had somebody not leave here and say, how much is a house here? I'm not joking either. It's, you know, like, I don't really like this Burbank gig anymore. And so it's funny because, you know, we get people up all the time and they see what we have and they realize how special the area that we're in. And it's fun to watch that in their faces. Then they go home, you know, until the next project, you know, because that's where their job is and their family is. But it's fun for people to just, you know, get a glimpse of what we have and really appreciate it. I
don't know that a lot of people really understand, also speaking specifically of St. George, how close it is to Las Vegas. I mean, it really is just, I'm there all the time just to fly in and out because they have the big airport and it's really inexpensive to get in and out of there. But it's just it's really not very far.
Right.
It's down the street.
I know. When we tell
So-
people where we're from, we say we're from Las Vegas, Utah.
Okay, Las Vegas,
Not,
Utah.
not Salt Lake, Utah. Las Vegas, Utah.
Because they hear Utah, they think Salt Lake, right? They think way up
yeah,
there. and it's
exactly.
like, yeah.
No, I had this conversation with somebody just a few days ago. They were picturing snow, they
Yeah.
were picturing skiing, all that stuff, and I go,
know.
actually,
It's
we're
70,
more like
yeah.
Arizona,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
more like Las Vegas than.
So there's
than
two
typical
things I
Utah.
tell, and we have a 30,000 square foot facility down in Las Vegas. So Las Vegas is actually kind of a home base for us in a way, even though everything's ran out of southern Utah. And if somebody in Vegas is like, "What's the weather up there in Utah?" I'll always say, "What is it in Summerlin right now?" Because it's the exact
Same
same
thing.
height, same everything. There's no
Pretty.
different, right? And the other thing is it's only about 25 minutes longer from our front door in St. George to the beach at Newport as it is to Salt Lake City downtown.
Isn't that amazing?
And
Yeah.
people don't realize like that literally is how, removed we are from Salt Lake, right? And I mean, we're part of the state, it's, we love our state of Utah, don't get me wrong,
Oh,
but I
don't you-
don't think people
because-
realize how far we are from Salt
We
Lake.
have the best of both worlds because
Yes.
Utah is a very business friendly state.
Yes.
Such a great state to do business in.
Oh my gosh, because we do business in Las Vegas and LA. And I got to tell you that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even thank you for bringing that up because that is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Just the fact that we can just go call a local economic development office and ask questions and they'll lead us through a process and they're always business friendly. Like they're never slapping our wrist before we even start. This has been one of the best places to do business
Yeah.
in the world. It's so great. Like can't even say enough about that. Yeah. Sorry, I'm glad Stephanie
No,
brought
I
that up.
mean,
That's a huge
if
deal.
you were in
That's,
California, you'd have restrictions and these laws and these
Yeah.
taxes and these. I mean,
well,
it's,
OSHA regulations, and we have clean energy regulations, and we have,
yeah.
all
you're
the
just
way
kind of
down.
regulated to
Oh, yeah.
out of business, and Utah's been very.
We have to do
business-friendly
water
that way.
sampling in other places just for chemical, whatever. It's
Right.
just, and we do the same thing here, but we do it the right way. We do it, because I understood that we take care of the environment and do it right, and we report the right way, and we actually have cleaner places here, better environmental.
It's so interesting you say that because of the fact that the outdoors is such a big deal here. I mean, people take the outdoors so seriously here that you're naturally looking out for it. It's actually ingrained into the culture
Yeah,
in
you're
some
picking
ways.
up trash and
Yes. I mean, because
Keeping
we
it
have
beautiful.
there's so many places around here, and people take such pride in the cleanliness and the beauty and the outdoors, and so it isn't as if somebody has to force you to care. People
kinda
go out of their
naturally
way
do it.
here,
Yeah.
to take care of the place because there is such a. Well, we're known for that. I mean, it's interesting because one part of our business actually is a nationwide business, so I talk to people coast to coast on a regular basis, and so many people know this place because they've driven through on their way to Vegas or they've gone to Zion's or something like that, and they always talk about it's so beautiful there. It's so and it's like the people that
Yeah.
live here know that too.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of and matter of fact, you even talked about that a minute ago. People coming from California, they come here and they go, "Wait,
Yeah. Like I've driven through here 100 times. I
Yes.
guess I should have stopped.
should have stopped." Yeah. Well, when I moved my business down here, it was on. I wanted to get away from the big city and I wanted to get away from cold. That was both of them were what Denver is.
Yeah.
And so this was on my short list, and I came down a couple times looking for offices, and I thought, now why wouldn't I want to be here?
Right.
It's a great place to be. So you've talked a little bit about then the business friendly environment of Utah, and I'm assuming kind of this applies across. You actually mentioned the fact that the mayor, which is also kind of a different thing when you get into a smaller community.
Yeah.
You probably have a city councilman that maybe live down the street, and you can talk to them. You can go bang on their door. Where if you were in Denver, you're never going to meet the mayor.
Yeah.
I mean, if you did, it'd be like this special occasion because
Yeah.
it's just not a thing. And here you actually have a little more say in what happens in the community because you actually know the person.
Yeah.
You're interacting with them. Some cases, some of these towns around here, I mean, these mayors are almost like good old boys.
Yeah.
They've
Oh,
been
yeah.
around forever, and they have a ranch and they have a business and all the other stuff, and everybody knows
it's
them.
the
and-
Utah twang, and you know what's funny is I have to say this on camera because it's a big deal. The Utah twang isn't a Utah twang; it's actually an English twang, right outside of Manchester, right? And it was the farming twang, And that grouping of people came and they landed in Pine Valley here, and basically came down the hill, and that's where you can tell that twang, but you assume it's a cowboy Southern Utah thing. It's actually a very European
learn something new every day.
No, you're right. It's interesting because at one point, when you would have lived in Salt Lake or a lot of different places in Utah, at least half of the people would have had a British accent. I mean, that's how so many, not a lot of people realize that, but how many of the people that originally came to Salt Lake City were from England.
Yeah.
And so they brought that here.
Yeah.
And so yes, you're right. We have all those remnants of that, I think that's partly also why we see so much entrepreneurship here, because these are people that literally were escaping poverty. They were trying to get, they were, and they made it through. They went up this Mississippi River, grabbed themselves a wagon, walked across the plains, ended up here.
And if you've ever been and if you've ever been in Southern Utah in July or August, you think like, what made you stay here?
What made you stay?
It's 115 degrees.
So
like
hot.
you will die if there's not air conditioning, and there was no air conconditioning back then.
It's amazing.
Like it's amazing they made it, right? And great pioneers. So glad they ended up here. Glad they went through the hard work so we could live
so
through
that
the
we
AC.
could have all the stuff, plenty of water, air conditioning, all the other stuff. So these different. That's the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about. One of the things the issues that people talk about here is that when you have once again, in a smaller market, you also have a smaller talent pool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how do you work around that? How does that impact your business?
Yeah, it's been a challenge, I think, from time to time, where we kind of got to the point where we knew we would just have to train from scratch. Like we'd bring someone in and introduce them to how to manufacture a sign 101, because you don't really come with... you can't pull from very many people with experience.
It's good and it's bad, right? Mm-hmm. Is we don't have people who are competing with us much because we're at a level now where there's really nobody who's going to compete with us at certain, never say never, but sure. Right now it takes us 6 months to train somebody from scratch because we're not bringing them from LA or we're not poaching them from somebody else. We've got to hire somebody off the street who says, hey, printing's cool. And take them and make them a lean manufacturing expert and teach them processes, OSHA regulations. We've got to teach them, ISO standards. We've got to teach all sorts of things that are really important to us and important to our business. And once they've been indoctrinated and they have learned and they've figured out how it all works, the upside is our family is really tight as a work family because we've all learned it together and we hold it tightly together. And so it's really important for us to continue our growth together. So most of the people at our company will continue to hey, let's look at this. They've learned here. And so they've got this kind of undying need to continue to grow, to innovate, to build. And so it's this really cool environment that we've developed over the years that just keeps the business pumping up and going in the right direction.
Can I add to that?
Please.
Okay. So, there's a few positions that I would say we would look outside of the area to hire and bring talent here, just because the industry's not here. Yeah. And, maybe there was a degree or a specialty that we needed there, to bring someone in. It's not hard to convince someone to move here. A lot of people want to live here. Yeah. And, with this last year, we've realized we can do a lot of things remotely. Like we have staff that live in Virginia and New York. And so they're kind of all over the country now, and we just do it remotely. Mm-hmm. And they love to visit, every once, twice a month or whatever.
Our senior vice president of sales for our whole corporation's out of Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah.
And, I probably speak to him an hour, 2 hours a day, but he doesn't need to be here. And in fact, it's actually beneficial for him not to be here. And so it's interesting that even in this little small town, we've got all these great resources all over the world that we keep leaning on, and it brings it all back to Southern Utah. Because one thing we love about Design to Print, so Steamroller, the dollars are spent here, the dollars cycle here. One thing about Design to Print that we love is we go make money all over the world. Only 5% of our business is local in Utah. So 95% of the dollars that come back through the door, actually it's fresh money coming into Southern Utah. Awesome. So we're bringing a bit of money through those back doors and cycling them into this community to help this community grow. And so we're actually kind of proud of that part of it, is even though we've had to go out and get business all over the country for that component, we bring all the money back home. And so we're huge pro Southern Utah on that. And that's one thing we're pretty proud of, is bringing those dollars back home.
So, Stephanie, I understand you're involved with something, the Governor's Office of Economic, I'm not even sure what it is, but can you tell us a little bit about what that is that you're involved with?
GOED, which is the Governor's Office of Economic Development, Board of Directors, where we sit down as a board and we approve incentives for companies who are looking to move to Utah. And within Utah, every county has their own economic director. St. George has one for that whole area, actually. And, they are able to really kind of connect with the company, understand what their needs are, what they're looking for, whether it's land or building or space or, work, staff, and but they can also provide incentives for tax breaks. They get the utility companies involved, they get the local government involved, and they really can help work with development and kind of enticing companies to move here and bring good paying jobs to Utah. There's criteria that has to be met, but that's going to help elevate the salaries that you're seeing. It's going to help bring those up. It's going to help bring education, partnering with the university here and the tech colleges, and being able to develop the talent that these companies are going to need, are going to be looking for. And so it's important that companies who want to be here, or even businesses that are already here that are maybe considering leaving, there's programs that will help retain them and keep them here. So, reaching out and talking with the local development director is, I think, critical for all businesses to know what they do and what services they provide and what programs are available to them to just help them thrive and help them grow. And I don't know, it's a really cool thing. And so the government is great. Like I said, Utah's a business-friendly state, but it goes so far beyond that. There's just so much to know that, it really is important that you get in and meet with those people that know the programs and that can, kind of lay it out for you, what's available.
I'm going to ask you something about this and see if there's anything interesting in here. Having worked in that space, did you see any patterns? I'm talking about types of businesses that are moving here, locations that they're moving from, what the issues are that make somebody want to move here in the first place.
Yeah, I think, you're going to see a lot of that concentrated on the Wasatch Front up near towards Salt Lake. But there is a flood of tech companies moving here, leaving Silicon Valley and moving to Silicon Slopes. Now it's called up in Salt Lake. You've got your Adobe and your Google and your Facebook, like they're all kind of moving in. And clearly for living, like they want to be outdoors and not have to put all of their money into their home. It's a lot cheaper to live here. And then finding the talent, there's some great talent. I know Goldman Sachs is headquartered up in Salt Lake, or they have one of their headquarters up there.
Second largest in the world.
Because of all of the different languages that are spoken here because of the missionaries, right? And so there's a lot of really unique things to Utah that have drawn people here. I think people want to live outdoors, hiking, skiing, biking, like all of that. And Utah is so outdoor centric. And then, so I would say tech manufacturing is another big industry where you see a lot of growth. And then we have aeronautics, aerospace industry. We've got Hill Air Force Base up in Ogden, and you can see that really growing. But we have our own little niche down here with Ram Company. It's been amazing. Like they build parts for the space shuttles and airplanes and that. So it's kind of fun to have that down here as well. But no, I think people who are just looking to get out of the bigger cities are turning to Utah. You see that a lot.
Here we are in once again, a smaller market. And you also, from what I understand, there's a lot of raw materials you have to have access to too.
Yeah.
We don't really have a railroad coming through here. We have a very, very, very small airport. And so how do you deal with...
We do have one thing. We've got I-15.
With what?
I-15.
And I-15, yeah.
I-15,
right through the middle.
Yes,
Yep.
and I-15 is actually what I think the third largest corridor
I mean,
vertical corridor.
Oh yeah, it goes
Yeah.
from Canada to Los
Mexico.
Angeles,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
like
it goes
even further. Yeah,
and
it goes to
it keeps
Mexico.
going.
I've driven it down into Mexico pretty far on a motorcycle, but
No,
anyway,
like
that's another story.
transportation is actually, we're really in a great place for transportation. Then you've got I-70 that goes east and west, right? So so as we're shipping things out, it's not an issue, really.
Yeah, really, everything was set up to go to Las Vegas. So all it is another 100 miles past, right? And so it's a super easy place to get to. And it seems to be a place that, for whatever reason, all the shipping lines kind of intersect. It's not, you can't get there from here. Somebody's going through here either way, whether they're going north, south, and different. It seems to be a central thoroughfare. And so it's favorable on shipping rates. And we've had good success in getting things from here to, if we were in Las Vegas, it would be cheaper. Everything we ship would be 5 to 10% cheaper in and out. But 5 to 10% to live where you want to live isn't a mega, if it was 40, 50%, yeah, we'd have to look at it. 5 to 10, it's not that bad. Like it's you got to start looking at that point at what the value is, right? And, but we've gotten very proficient, would you say, at shipping from China directly to, Southern Utah and had some really good international relationships. Some of the things that we do just aren't made in the States. For example, we have a whole line of LED lighting. And so we buy the light bulbs in Japan where they're made at Cree. We'll ship them off to China to be put onto boards. And then the boards then, once they're packaged and done, they're put into containers and then shipped over here, right? So we have kind of a grouping of products that kind of fall into that group. And so, we've gotten very good at that. And that's been a huge part of our business. So, yeah. Trying to bring those dollars home.
More than you ever wanted to know.
Yeah.
No,
Sorry, you can cut that part out.
The thing that's so fascinating is just looking at this from a growth potential. And what I mean is, here's the story where your mom was a flight attendant, had this idea of making a better service for something that just wasn't being served very well here in this market. Mm-hmm. You start this little thing and it leads to that. I mean, just listening to that right there is so powerful. Looking at what is the potential of a small market. Let me tell you what the potential of a small market is. I mean, it expands so far beyond that small market. We're talking about 2 time zones on the other side of the planet that are impacted because of a small business started in a small market. And that's just absolutely remarkable listening to that story of growth and where that goes. That's really, that's pretty amazing stuff.
It's a little bigger than the 10 by 10 room we began.
Yeah, exactly. Astoundingly. That's really amazing.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about this stuff. This has been super
Our pleasure.
fascinating
Thank
for
you.
me.